Crystal of Atlan is a flashy, free-to-play, anime-style, cross-platform, magicpunk MMORPG from Nuverse that mixes dungeon crawling, instant stage-based missions, flashy fast-paced combat, and a ton of systems to sink your time into. In the past few weeks, I've spent a good chunk of my time playing the game, and while there are things I enjoyed a lot, the experience also has some frustrating lows, souring the general feel of the game. As of this review, the game has been fully released to the public since May 28, 2025 and can be enjoyed on PC, PlayStation 5, iOS, and Android. Now what about the actual gameplay? Well, Crystal of Atlan's gameplay can be broken down into a few key parts. You will take on story missions at these safe zone hubs where you'll see tons of other players running around. Here you can't do any actual combat, just life skills like cooking, fishing, and so on. Basically a social hub for preparation. And then you'll jump into instance zones through chapters, clearing out mobs and encountering bosses once you reach certain areas. These very same zones can also be accessed later in Elite mode, where things get more difficult, do more damage, have better drops, and earn you more XP. The game also gives you more than enough skills to play around with. In fact, there are too many, so many that you can't realistically use them all. Thus, you'll need to think carefully about which abilities to slot in and how to build your own unique rotation. When it clicks, it feels fun and satisfying. Speaking of fights, these are handled rather well. They're fun, flashy, even if not too difficult in the story mode. However, when it comes to elite dungeons and bosses, you'll need to do more than just spam random abilities. You'll actually need to know what each of them does and how they benefit you in a fight. In terms of bosses, these are unfortunately one of the weaker points in the game. Many are just recycled from the main story, slapped with a recolor or a lightning effect. They do their job, but they don't leave much of an impression. The story is also nothing to write home about. It's split up into seemingly disconnected arcs that feel more like padding to extend how much time players spend in-game. It also feels time-gated behind a stamina system, forcing you to either use paid consumables to restore it or wait hours for it to refill automatically. When it comes to Crystal of Atlan's world, it's a mixed bag. Some areas look fantastic, have a strong sense of style, especially in big set pieces like this fight I'm having on a moving carousel. But outside of these novel moments, a lot of the maps feel fairly standard for the genre. They're functional, but they don't invite you to explore just for the sake of it. The game pushes you through content rather quickly, with fights lasting just a minute or two at most, so the world feels more like a backdrop for combat rather than a place to truly get lost in. One feature that really surprised me was the collectible system. Defeat certain bosses and you take their unique drops back home to display as decorations. It's a small touch, but it makes hunting specific encounters feel more rewarding and gives you a tangible trophy case to show off. You can also compare your collectibles with other players to see how many manage to get that specific one, since some of them are significantly rarer than others. Now, I'm not usually into PvP, but here it's surprisingly fun. The combat system translates well into PvP, and it's accessible enough that even someone like me, who tends to avoid PvP gameplay, had a good time. The skills you use in PvE are the same ones used here, but with slight changes to avoid being too overpowered. Additionally, to avoid putting someone in a loop of endless damage, there is an energy system limiting how many skills you can use and also how much damage your opponent can take in one go, which I rather enjoyed. Outside of combat, there are plenty of life skills to choose from, such as the previously mentioned fishing and cooking skills. And well, they're serviceable, not grindy or punishing, but also not groundbreaking. They add variety without stealing the spotlight, yet don't feel fleshed out enough for me to really care about. The biggest problem Crystal of Atlan faces is repetition. The game starts out strong, the power gate is rather low, but by the later stages you're basically repeating the same tasks over and over again across multiple characters. Dungeons blur together, bosses lose their novelty, and the loop starts to feel more like a chore instead of a fun time. Additionally, you'll constantly be showered with limited time deals, microtransactions, and stamina limitations for essentially every possible task in game. And let's not forget the fact that skins grant additional buffs and bonuses, which puts free-to-play players at a massive disadvantage. In general, I feel like Crystal of Atlan has some great ideas, like the collectible trophies, enjoyable combat, and surprisingly fun PvP, but it stumbles with recycled content, a late game that leans heavily into monotony and grinding, while also being far too aggressive with its microtransactions. If you're looking for a flashy MMO with lots of systems to tinker with, it's worth trying out, but just know that the novelty will not last too long.